What's happening, dogs? Mr. Allen here, and we're about to solve this quadratic equation by completing the square. All right, first step in completing the square, we want our quadratic and linear terms, x squared and the plus 6x, on its own side. We're going to get the constant on the other side. So I need to add 8 to both sides. And I'm going to be left with x squared plus 6x, and I like to do this, plus blank equals 8 plus blank. What's that plus blank for? Well, that's the number I'm going to add to both sides in order to complete the square. How do I figure that number out? Well, I'm going to take that b value, the one that's in front of my linear term, the coefficient of my linear term. I'm going to take that number, I'm going to divide it by 2, and I'm going to square it. And I like to write this full process out because this is going to give me 3 squared, and that's going to equal 9. The reason why I like to write that out is this 3 right here is going to come in handy in a little bit. Now, the number I'm going to add to both sides is that 9 right there. I'm going to add it over here as well. Now what I have is x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 17. That left-hand side can be factored into x plus 3 times x plus 3, or x plus 3 quantity squared equals 17. Now, how am I going to solve this from here? Well, I can solve using square roots at this point. Square root, square root. And I'm left with x plus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 17. You got to remember that plus or minus. It's an easy thing to miss when you're solving with completing the square. There's so much going on. Now, to finish solving this, I'm going to have x equals, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. So I'm going to have negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 17. That is my final answer for this particular problem. You could plug it into your calculator and get a decimal, but most will allow you to leave it like this with the plus or minus. Makes it super easy to write, nice and convenient. Last thing we want to talk about is this 3 that I mentioned that would come in handy. Did you see where that came up? Right here. It's the number that goes inside the binomial, that factored part squared. All right, so in the event that we're dealing with fractions, weird numbers, whatever, and the factoring is a little more difficult, that number that we squared will come in super handy when you're trying to factor this thing to then solve. That's it. See you guys later.